Hello everyone, welcome to Module 3. You've made it to the halfway mark. The purpose of Module 3, or the focus of Module 3, is student activism and community partnerships. So I want to take a second to look about change and how we make change in our schools based on some of the stuff that you'll read in Saphir. So Saphir says that as a leader you're in charge, but you're not in control. And I think that's a pretty powerful statement to think about and to just take some time to dive into as you go into this module. So when I read that part about you're in charge, I take it as you have a charge. You have a responsibility or a duty to fulfill. And based on the readings of this course, we know that duty and that responsibility, that charge, has come from the community, the parents, the teachers, and the students that we serve. So Saphir tells us, when we're dealing with complex problems, what are some ways that we can make change? She also tells us about the difference between what is a complex problem. It's not a problem that has an industrial solution. There's no simple answer to it. But it's the problems that we deal with so often in education and the ones that we as equity leaders try to focus on. So she lays out a framework for, how to influence complex change. And I think that those are important steps to think about as we think about student activism, community engagement, and then we go into the assignment for Module 3 and 4, which is to look at a policy and change a policy initiative. So in Saphir's model, we start off with telling the current state of the story. So we're thinking about what's currently going on. What data are we looking at? And Saphir reminds us to look at all levels of data that she talked about in the first chapter, both street level data, map level data, and that satellite level data. I'm a big proponent, and I think that we need to, as educators, continue to look at street level data. That's what the people are thinking and the people are feeling, and those are the people that we serve. We look just at big test scores and other things. We're not really looking at just about, we're looking at numbers. We're not looking at how are people perceiving those numbers, and how are people perceiving the actions that have already been taken. Looking at this data, looking at the current state also leads us into the next steps, which is finding a solution, especially a solution that can be supported by the people that we're serving. The second step is to name an equity imperative. So again, we're connecting the tools and we're connecting the focus for the change. It establishes what we're looking for or what we are looking to do. It also tells us what we're trying to do and how we're going to ensure that. So, for example, Saphir gives us some examples. Maybe another one we consider as an equity imperative is that we want all of our students of color to have the same access to honors, AP, or dual enrollment classes in our high schools. We want them to have the same academic achievement rate. So that's a pretty important thing. Saphir says that we'll take it even a step further, and that it will give us our vision, which she calls our North Star, and that will tell us what we're ultimately looking for. What is our ultimate goal? What will we see? Then she tells us that we need to identify a few simple rules. This is important. I think this is a very, very important step because we need to make sure that we're guiding our work. What's going to keep us in our lane? What's going to keep us focused? What's going to make sure that we don't go off onto those branches and lose focus of what we're really working towards? Directly related to that is to create a skinny plan. When she first said this, I immediately thought about our school SIP plans, which can be huge and exhaustive with lots of different actions and lots of different things related to our mission and vision statement, our curriculum focuses, our opportunities, or our struggles, or our demands that are placed on us by central office. And sometimes those plans become so big that we lose focus and we get too distracted. So Saphir says that we need a skinny plan, which is going to help us, again, stay in our lane and to tell us what we're going to do, but also tell us what we're not going to do. What are we not going to worry about? What are we not going to focus on? It also tells us who is in charge. Step 5 is to establish a few clear metrics. How are we going to measure that we're making progress? And how do we know that we're on track? And again, don't forget that we want to look at that street level data. We want to continue to hear the voices of our students, our parents, our teachers. What are they saying? What are they feeling? Are they with us in the progress that we're trying to make? Because again, if we're making change and they're not with us, what's the purpose of that change? And then finally, we need to distribute the leadership. We need to build capacity. Who is leading? How do we share the responsibility? The more that we allow people to do, the more they're likely to learn, and the more that they're likely to buy in. I think this is a good strategy for making change in our schools, especially as equity leaders. But I think it also leads to two key questions to think about as we go through this module. Number one, who is in charge in our schools and why? And the second one is, what role does student activism play in our schools? And how does that relate to change in our schools? Hopefully some of the readings and some of the discussion boards will help you think about those as we go through this module. In Module 3, you have 3 discussion questions. Looking at them very quickly, what is the role of an educator in student activism? That should be pretty interesting. This has a lot of issues and has a lot of concerns for a lot of teachers and parents. Second question is, how do we encourage student and parent engagement? We've talked about that a little bit before, but how do we really encourage it? And how do we make sure that we are listening to the parents who need to be listened to and the students that need to be listened to, not just the ones that are the loudest? And then how should we engage the community? What do we expect of the community? What do we expect to get from the community? And what role do we really want our community to play in our school? There's no big assignment in this module. There's one in Module 4. It's due July 10th, but this is a good time to start thinking about it. So in Module 4, you'll create an equity position paper. You're going to pick a policy initiative and take a position on it. And it could be any policy initiative, any big idea that we've talked about so far. Think about what you wrote about in Module 1 and especially in Module 2. Take a position on it and argue for it. It could be a big thing like school choice, or it could be something smaller like dress code. What's the role of student activism? Tracking, grading practices, disciplinary practices, any of those policies that you can think of that affect our work with students and parents and teachers each day. That's what you're going to focus on in this equity position paper. Again, it's due July 10th. Let's take a quick look. You'll notice that in the module, it's described in Module 3. You're not going to actually turn it in here. You'll turn it in Module 4. But again, your assignment of this course is to ask you to argue which educational policy issue we studied. And it doesn't have to be necessarily in this course. It could be in any part of our program. And then think about one that has a great potential to make impact on our students and our daily outcomes with our students. The paper should follow these 5 steps. Number 1, choose that policy initiative. Discuss it. Where did it come from? And what's your claim about that policy initiative? Second, provide a background for it. Why was it created? What was its impact? Third, defend your claim. Use some evidence, either from our course readings or outside readings. Try 3 to 5 pieces of evidence or 3 to 5 sources. Is the policy leading to equity or is it not? Third, make a counterclaim and prove them wrong. And then finally, summarize your argument and make a recommendation. Should the policy be kept as it is? Should it be amended? Should there be a new policy? And then what is your recommendation? Again, this is a pretty open-ended assignment. You're thinking about, as a school leader, what is something you think that we should focus on? What does the research say about that topic? And then what are you recommending for that? Kind of similar to what you just finished in Module 2, but now we're taking a little bit deeper dive into this. Make sure that your paper follows APA format. Your paper should be about 3 to 5 pages long, 7 pages max. Turn that in again July 10th. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out. I am going out of town, but feel free to email. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Have a great week, everybody.